Well, I think a lot of these issues, and you mentioned, for example, Black Lives Matter, which has sort of become an issue in Canada as well. I think they're issues that our politicians focus on when they want to energize their base or energize people who are very enthusiastic about politics. I don't think the average person is really too concerned about um, most of these sorts of issues. They're really more concerned about the cost of living, um, how's the economy doing, how stable is their job, and are they going to be able to get good health care and those sorts of issues, not really those other collateral issues that really come from the United States.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That even though these might be good media issues, or as Sabrina mentioned, ways to ramp up support on your base, they're not necessarily the issues that most people are caring about. Yes.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I'd also like to ask you. You've referenced this already, but I think it's also something you've written about housing. I know we've talked about this, but it's so important that there has been an attempt by the political parties to have some form of housing policy, affordable housing policy, front and center in their platforms, which is not, I got to say, historically usual in an election campaign in this country. So, do you mind maybe giving us a grade on who's doing the best at addressing this issue?
I have to be honest, I don't think any of the parties are doing very well addressing this issue. Like you said, it's not something that's historically prominent in campaign platforms, but this housing crisis is historically unprecedented. And the problem is we do need to see things like more supply. We do need to address foreign speculators, but we need to stop stimulating demand. And all three of the major parties' platforms have parts that stimulate demand, whether it's making access and mortgages easier, whether it's expanding first-time home buyers programs. All these things are allow first-time home buyers, and particularly young ones, to take on more debt that they're going to be stuck with longer, and it's going to continue to propel housing prices up. I mean, the essential issue is that in order for housing to become affordable, some people are going to have to lose some equity. And no politician wants to oversee that, let alone be held responsible for it. So we're kind of stuck in this weird space where they want to say the right things to young people who are frustrated, but their willingness to actually do something about the housing crisis seems rather limited.
Mm-hmm. Matthew Lau, what's your take on this?
Yeah, certainly I don't think any of the parties have put together much of a good plan on this. To be honest, I think the housing issue is really more of a municipal issue. It's really a supply issue. And I don't think that the federal government should be doing much on housing, if anything.
Yeah, we've had a guest on my program in the past that looks to local council resistance to policies that would aid in the creation of more affordable housing. That it gets down to the granular level, but that's kind of where the issue is. Is that how you see it, Matthew?
Yeah, it's really an issue of the municipal governments constraining supply. And I think if we have the federal government starting to meddle in the housing market, that could cause some troubles.
Okay, here's a big question for you, Sabrina. I'll throw this one at you. We got a minute left before the break. I might have to sort of chop your answer in half and go after the break too. But is economic freedom possible after the COVID extraordinary powers that have been given to governments these last 18 months? We seem to be moving away from economic freedom rather than towards it.
I think it is possible, but voters have to decide it's a priority and demand it from their politicians and leaders. And I don't think we're at that point right now. I think a lot of Canadians are, and understandably so, still nervous and still willing to make compromises when it comes to all types of freedoms. But this can't go on forever, and we do have to hold our governments to account when it comes to how they limit our freedoms and what we allow from them.